And welcome back again, ladies and gentlemen, all of our attendees. I do hope you're also taking some time off to take the conversation forward using the hashtag ETSDGs. With that, it's time to actually hear out from the leaders themselves. This is the inaugural CEOs panel, Leadership Matters. And how is it that the C-suite is seizing the ESG opportunity? That is the question on your minds. Let's get the answers from these amazing leaders. We have with us Juvencio Maeztu, Deputy CEO and CFO, Ingka Group, Vikram Kirloskar, Vice Chairman, Toyota Kirloskar Motor, Chairman and Managing Director, Kirloskar Systems, Jamshyd Godrej, Chairman and Managing Director, Godrej and Boyce. We're also joined by Narain, Senior Bayer Representative, South Asia, Managing Director and CEO, Bayer CropScience, Sindhu Gangadharan, Managing Director, SAP Labs, India. And the one person who will be responsible in extracting all the insights from our leaders is another leader himself. We have with us Mathew Nelson, Global Climate Change and Sustainability Services Leader, EY. So on that note, stay with us because a very interesting session is coming forward. And please don't forget to share your questions so that we can have the moderator take it up for all of you as well. So with that, let the next session begin.
Thank you, Kavya, and thank you to the Economic Times for this really great opportunity to facilitate this amazing, esteemed panel of CEOs to talk about how the C-suite can seize the opportunities associated with ESG, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation. So in terms of jumping straight into it, perhaps I could start with you, Miss Gangadharan, to ask a broad question that we might actually then end up going through the whole panel on, which is we know that ESG has been increasing in terms of its focus in the last 12 to 18 months. But I know that many of your organizations have been involved in the ESG agenda for some time. So I'd love to hear from you in terms of where you're at in the ESG journey within your organization and why you think it is so important for organizations to take on board the challenge. So maybe to you, Ms. Gangadharan.
Thank you so much, Mathew. And first of all, a warm welcome to this session. Really looking forward to hearing everybody's views. And to your question, Mathew, at SAP, we do realize that much of our ability to create a more climate positive future lies in actually how we enable our 500,000 customers worldwide to reduce their carbon footprints and also their greenhouse gas emissions. And this is mainly through our very diverse product portfolio. Now, if I just look at SAP, Mathew, 85% of the largest carbon emission intensive companies use SAP. And they use SAP to manage their end-to-end business processes, which is also an incredible opportunity for us, if you ask me, to contribute to the global climate change movement in a very big and in an extremely impactful way. And we are totally banking on digitization to help save huge amounts of carbon emissions, be it in major industries, be it like utilities, be it agriculture, be it in logistics. And we're also helping organizations actually track their carbon emissions from their upstream supply chains to the downstream logistics. And this includes everything, right? Be it procurement, be it operations, be it manufacturing. And here we're using solutions like SAP Product Footprint Management. And sustainability goals are increasingly as important to every business and their success as their financial goals. So what we are doing, Mathew, is really to add sustainability as a new dimension of success into our analytical and transactional applications. So in short, we want to enable organizations to help them measure their performance by adding what we call as a green line to the existing top and bottom line. And this is also in line with our vision and purpose to help the world run better. We really want to help our customers to reinvent how they tackle sustainability. And we also believe our strong cloud strategy will also become a very key driver in achieving this, and we are absolutely committed to turn our customers into sustainable and intelligent enterprises, thereby helping the world run better in a sustainable manner. And at SAP, Mathew, we lead by example. For example, here in India, we are a very strong family of 14,000 of us, and we are the second largest R&D hub outside our headquarters in Germany. So it becomes extremely imperative to be very conscious of how we run and how we operate on the ground. For instance, 95% of the total energy that's consumed on our lab's Bangalore campus is derived from green energy sources. We're also very proud that 70% of our transport operations are run by electric vehicles with in-house EV charging stations on our campus. And also very happy to share that our campus is completely free of single-use plastic, which you know, Mathew, is one of the largest contributors to plastic waste which is dumped into our oceans. So as a responsible organization, we use the approach of first avoiding, second reducing, and third compensating for our emissions, Mathew.
Thank you so much. And I think if I throw to you, Mr. Narain, on a similar question, where is your organization at, given that focus that we just heard from Ms. Gangadharan around customer being a critical stakeholder, but then also the own footprint? If I asked you in terms of Bayer and where they're at in their journey, is it similar? Is it different? Is it broader? How would you describe it?
Thank you, Mr. Nelson, for the opportunity, and thanks to the Economic Times for giving us this platform. Let me first start by sharing the rich legacy Bayer comes from, right? 165 years rooted in science, innovation, and technology. And today, as we speak, we're very, very clear to deliver future for every business that we have. We are right at the intersection of food, health, and nutrition. Sustainability is clear part of the business deliverable. So it's two sides of the same coin. So that's the first starting point. The second piece I'd also say is 3 years ago, as we started this journey and looking at some of the challenges, 3 or 4 things happened. One is our chairman and CEO, Bauman, assumed the role of chief sustainability officer of the company. That's the first piece. The second piece we also said is we need a strong set of stakeholders externally to give us feedback in this journey. And we pulled in close to 9 to 10 members as independent experts as Sustainability Council. The last piece, which is, I think, is at the heart of it, is linking management incentives to delivering on these goals. And what are the goals that we set ourselves? Apart from reducing the carbon footprint, largely in agriculture, which we have a huge opportunity to, and environmental footprint, I might add, we have opportunity to influence. The biggest piece of sustainability is inclusive growth. And there we put out 3 bold statements. How do you improve livelihoods of 100 million small farmers across the world? So this represents 20% of the world of smallholder farming in Asia and Africa. We believe with collaborative ecosystems, we can not only deliver on the ESG goals, but also deliver improving farm income. The second piece is, how do you bring contraceptives to some of the challenged communities, to women, which is modern contraceptives, to solve some of the challenges that we face today? And finally, how do you bring inclusive and accessible self-care to communities which are disadvantaged? And as we pull all these together, the core of what we are trying to deliver is clearly inclusive growth of the business, but clearly holding ourselves accountable for delivering societal goals as well. I would say India, with everything that we have today, is core to this, and is actually one of the leaders, and the ecosystem that we are building, especially in small farming, is being taken to other parts of the world, where we are creating an ecosystem called Better Life Farming, which is a collaborative ecosystem with end-to-end players coming in to solve collectively the problems of smallholder farming. So to me, Mr. Nelson, I would say the biggest pivot that we are doing, apart from our strengths, is also building a collaborative ecosystem, because no one company can do this alone. And we see this as a huge opportunity to drive thought leadership and collaboration to deliver on these goals. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's a great comment too about how Bayer seems to be really embedding ESG into its core business, and that is going to create those opportunities for you to continue to thrive into the future by bringing the two together. And that's a really good point that we need to take on board. If I throw maybe to Mr. Kirloskar I know this is an agenda that's been very important for your business, and you also have looked to embed these concepts into the way that you operate. Maybe you could give us some insights in terms of your journey and why you see it as important.
Let me give a very selfish viewpoint, on ESG. Why is it so important for us? Of course, we can take the moral high ground. It's good for environment, good for the future. We need to be clean. But for me, to build a high quality product, which will give good value for the customer and retain value, I need stakeholders which are very proud of what we do. We need something that will also reduce our costs. We've gone on to a journey on cleaning up our environment, which is actually reducing our costs. We are, like Sindhu said, we are on more than 95% for a car factory and our suppliers on renewable energy. We use virtually zero fresh water. We do full recycling and rainwater harvesting. We've increased the water level, groundwater level of our surrounding communities and ourselves with this exercise. We have other zero discharges, completely recyclable packaging. So we have a whole bunch of activities. And the way we have approached these activities is to teach our workforce on what is carbon mean to them in the future. What does carbon mean to their children, to their societies in the future? I've taken a sort of a goal. I started this activity on society many years ago, and I said, first, let's do 1 kilometer around the factory. Then let's go 5 kilometers, 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers. First, our community around us has to be proud of us. And that's our objective, whether it's health, whether it's cleanliness, whether it is water, and all these education, better schools. So that's the sort of approach we have made. And I think that is helping us build high quality vehicles, which retain value and give customers a happy experience over their lifetime. So that's my very selfish reason for doing ESG. I think for discrete industries like us, discrete manufacturing, it's much easier. It reduces our costs, it improves our quality, and I think it makes us more competitive.
Thank you. I think you are a little bit harsh on yourself by saying it's a selfish goal, but you've talked about a very non-selfish goal. So I think that, again, the concept of how those two come together is part of the theme of what we're hearing here. If I throw to Mr. Maeztu, given Ingka Group's very complex set of stakeholders and value chain, and we take on board that concept of that we just heard from Mr. Kirloskar about looking after your immediate stakeholders in the community in which you operate, and then expanding from there, has that made a difference to your journey? And hearing from you in terms of someone that is very global in its mindset and outlook and its footprint would be great to hear from you in terms of what the journey means to you and why it's important to your business.
Thank you, Mathew. And I am going to build on the previous speaker.
Fantastic.
I think we are at the beginning of the most important decade of the humankind. And the time to act is now. Many companies, many people are talking about net zero by 2050, but this is too late. We have to be much more demanding in short-term goals, especially 2030. And what is our commitment? Our commitment is, first, we are committed to Paris Agreement, we are committed to UN Sustainable Development Goals, and we are committed to support the European Green Deal. But more importantly, in IKEA, we are committed with ourselves. And then we have decided to become climate positive by 2030 and to secure a positive impact in the society across our entire value chain in all the countries where we operate. And the important thing is not only the commitment, it's about how you measure, how you follow up, and how you take action. So it is actually for real. And why it is so important for us. And I will tell you 3 things why it's so important for us. First, because it's our responsibility. It's part of the DNA. The IKEA vision is to create a better everyday life for the many people. And we can all agree that this is more relevant than ever. But the important thing is how we measure performance towards that vision. And we have clarified internally with all our leaders that to do a good performance, to be a good leader, business leader, is about A, creating value for company. B is about creating value for customers. C is about creating value for people across the entire value chain. And D is about creating value for the planet. And then you close the loop. The second thing why it's so important is because customers and co-workers are demanding us, especially the new generation. They are very clear and they are very demanding. So if you don't go there as a business, you have an expiring date as a business. And thirdly, if these two reasons are not good enough, I'm building on the previous speaker, because being smart with the climate is being smart in resources. I truly believe that sustainability is going to be the new low-cost economy. It's going to be good business, to be good business, and to be able to secure by lower cost, to secure lower prices for consumers. And then there is good news. Over the last 4, is it possible to decouple growth from greenhouse gas emissions? In our case, over the last 4 years, we grew by 13.7%, and we have reduced the greenhouse gas emission by 14%. So it's possible, and it's good business to be good business.
Thank you. I think that's a very noble ambition, and bringing forward those targets to really go beyond this view of 2050 being the endpoint, I think is really important. EY ourselves have earlier this year committed that for financial year 2021, we ourselves will be carbon negative, to really try and push the boundaries of that agenda to bring it forward and make this statement about taking action now and moving forward with that action. So the last person I'd like to hear from is Mr. Godrej, to hear from you too, taking on board that discussion that we've heard around customer being important, driving change, and the need for us, or Mr. Maeztu's comment about this being the most important 10 years of human existence. What's the action from your organization, Mr. Godrej, and how do you see that playing out for your organization?
Thank you. Well, we had started a program about 10 years ago, which is known as Good and Green. And the idea here was that all our products should have a green label within a certain time. And for instance, our furniture products, today more than 30% of them all use materials which are certified green and recyclable. Similarly, in our appliance business, when we make refrigerators, we have been the first to use refrigerants that are natural refrigerants, both for refrigerators and air conditioners, which have zero global warming potential. So the idea was that in Good and Green, you're essentially talking about how you can make your products much more energy efficient and less polluting and more recycling. For instance, lately, CII and the Worldwide Fund for Nature have started a plastics pact in India, and we are a founding member of that. And essentially, the plastics pact talks about recycling and reuse of plastics and to drastically reduce that. And we have reduced our energy efficiency in manufacturing by over 30% in the last, by 100%. It's half of what it was 10 years ago. And our intention is to do that once again in the next 10 years to reduce our energy, specific energy consumption by, to halve it from where we are today. Similarly, with water, we have become totally water positive. Very good story that Vikram Kirloskar talked about, which we working on to reuse all our industrial water after treatment in our industrial housing colony. And similarly, we have spent the last 50 years protecting a mangrove area that's just outside our main campus in Mumbai. And this is the largest mangrove preservation project in India. And not only that, but it has contributed enormously to the cleanliness of the creek water in the Thane Creek. So the Good and Green program essentially has taken us, with specific aims throughout our business. Also, by agreeing to sign the EP 100 program, and similar, the Race to Zero, etc. These are all programs that we have signed for and intend to, implement. Also, my personal belief is that we need to commit to short-term goals rather than longer-term goals. The world is talking about net zero by 2050, which is a very, very remarkable and necessary goal. But I think we all need to also look at what we are going to do in the next 5 years and the next 10 years. And so we have taken a program that by 2030, we will reduce our overall energy consumption by 60%, and not just be water neutral, but also contribute water back to our society. So I think these are the type of issues we have done. And on a different level, I have chaired the Green Business Center for the Confederation of Indian Industry, where our biggest program has been green buildings. And today, green buildings, we have certified green buildings. We are the second largest footprint of green buildings in the world. And my company is actively involved in promoting green buildings and building green buildings. So I think, there are many aspects of our work that we have leveraged to improve our working conditions, improve society, improve our workers' conditions, etc. And our campus in Mumbai, which is on the eastern edge of Mumbai, up north a little bit, we have, from the beginning for the last over 50 years, we have called it a garden township. And our aim is to keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you. It's great to hear those actions being taken over a long period of time. I think you made that comment about 10 years ago setting this strategy. And I think if all organizations had taken your lead back then, we may be in a better position than we are today. But Mr. Godrej, I might ask a follow-up question to your comments there. I think what you've described is what actions to take that identify that this is important for your business. But many would challenge us on this call to say that we're not where we need to be in terms of the management of these issues, the broader ESG issues that we're grappling with. Do you think there is a business case for your business that would enable accelerating the actions that you're taking and subsequently the impacts, and how we can then get others to take your lead and actually accelerate that impact?
Yes, very much so. I think that when you promote your products as being energy efficient and using recycled materials, recycled packaging, etc., I think it certainly speaks to consumers. For instance, it's very difficult to explain to a consumer, that you use zero global warming potential refrigerants. That's a handful. But the fact of the matter is that the ozone depleting materials are 100 times worse for the atmosphere than CO2 is. Similar with methane, which of course more in agriculture. But the point here is that consumers need to understand that the product that they use, and by taking pride in them, that they are low energy consumption, so I think the way you promote your products and talk about them to your dealers, to your consumers does make a difference. It's not apparent like in an automobile or a two-wheeler, you can talk of how much consumption there is of petrol or diesel. And now, of course, in future, hopefully with electricity. But I think it's how you present the company and the organization is important. And that's what we have tried to do.
Yeah, good response. So speaking of automotive, maybe I'll throw back to you, Mr. Kirloskar. You've been set up for the question. What's your views on how do we accelerate activity, and is there a business case for doing that for your business?
There are three areas sort of we are focusing on. One is the manufacturing side of it, one is the product side of it, and then the third, of course, the society side of it. On the manufacturing, one of the things Jamshyd mentioned is the reduction in energy consumption. And that's our big focus. Of course, converting to renewable energy and all the other things are there. But basically, if you reduce energy, everything else starts coming down. And we've been focusing very, very hard on energy consumption. One of the unique ideas we have is, and things we've been doing, is low energy automation, where we use gravity as the prime source of energy in our automation. And that has worked extremely well in reducing our energy consumption in the plants. And we're teaching it to all our suppliers and further on with our dealers as well. So manufacturing is one area. Our biggest problem in manufacturing, frankly, is CNG or LPG. And I think in these 2 years, we'll get that licked. And I think our target would be to be carbon neutral in another 2 years as far as manufacturing is concerned. Second is products. Products is a little more complicated. It's very easy to go into pure electric or hybrid, or easier to go into hybrid for us, as well as electric or hydrogen. But I think you need to look at the overall energy situation in the country. How's the energy generated? What's the progress of going towards carbon-free energy generation? And I think progress on electric vehicles on our side will be based on that. In the meantime, we will, in the next 2 years, I think bulk of our production would be more towards hybrids. And that will reduce our carbon content on the products by almost 30–40% as we go along. Overall, when I look at carbon content, I look at source of energy to the use of energy, not just a product itself. And the third is society. And I feel this is where the real important thing is. We've set up a large eco park. It's about 24 acres. We started this activity also 10 years ago. It got built, it grew, the trees grew. And in the last couple of years, COVID put a block to it. We've educated about 13,000 children. It's a day's program on what is a circular economy and how they can change their own lifestyle. We've continued on digital mode through COVID, and we're restarting the physical mode now. But the most important thing is a behavior change of people, is to understand the effect of carbon and change your behavior, or effect of pollution, or effect of governance, or all these issues. You have to understand it and change your behavior. If you don't have a behavior change, we will not go ahead. So our main focus, if I say how to accelerate, is to educate and encourage a change in behavior.
So it's a great point. And I think this concept of supporting the many in terms of the actions that we need to take is very important. But you've picked up on technology and innovation being also very important in that journey. If I throw to Ms. Gangadharan, maybe I throw you a question around SAP as one of a digital and innovating organization. What sort of role do you think on in this challenge to support that technology build, and what role that will play? And then I'll come back to some of the other panel to come back to the point around behavior change and society. But Ms. Gangadharan, what's your thoughts?
I think fundamentally you'd agree, Mathew, that technology can really help us scale any kind of the transformation that we want to bring in, right? And if I just look back, I mean, what we've seen is a significant increase in natural calamities over the last decade. And what this has led to is an increased attention. I mean, you heard it from this esteemed panel as well, from very visionary Indian CEOs, but also entrepreneurs, right, who are acknowledging these trends and who are also making those very necessary adaptations to contribute to our sustainability story. And if you just look at the current horizon, there's a new bandwagon of very young eco-entrepreneurs who's taking the sustainability story by innovating new business models, introducing new thought processes, and also looking at building out technology-driven environmental products, environmental services. And I truly believe that this new set of entrepreneurs, right, they deep down, they believe that there's no time to waste for businesses to act more responsibly and sustainably. They're driven with that kind of mindset that we were talking about. And environment has clearly become a very important concern for them. And it's truly about, instead of expecting others to act, it's time that they start building out solutions, right? And if I just look at what we've been doing at SAP to support these very young eco-entrepreneurs, Mathew, we've empowered 51 early and growth stage startups through our startup innovation program called Startup Studio. There are initiatives like Invent, SAP.io, where we also identify those budding startups and entrepreneurs to help them go to market. And now if I call out one of them, Everloop by SAP is one such startup that is empowering businesses to achieve that zero waste by bringing a sustainability solution that is all about connecting stakeholders across the waste value chain, right? To enable that kind of a circular economy, to build that transparency, to build that traceability. And they've made phenomenal progress in a very short time. And I'd say what is also working in favor of these very young eco-entrepreneurs is the fact that also the Indian government is placing their bets on the micro, small, and medium enterprises to be one of the biggest drivers of to achieve India's SDGs, right? And so a lot of government initiatives also in place to help drive that ecosystem of young entrepreneurs, bring technology, bring products, bring services to drive that kind of scale for many of the sustainability related concerns. Great.
That's great insight. And I think actually we've had a question that's actually come through from the audience, which I might actually put to Mr. Maeztu, because the question is, anything more sustainable, more environmentally friendly, and more healthy is more expensive. How will this decade make all such sustainable products more affordable for the masses? It'd be great to hear from you as to, first of all, I'd love your reflection on whether you think that that's the case, that is true, that anything that is more sustainable is more expensive. But more importantly, how do we ensure that everyone is brought along for the journey in this exercise, and that we can ensure that those of us in Asia and across other parts of the globe can be part of the solution rather than part of the problem? So Mr. Maeztu, I might throw to you.
Thank you, Mathew. It's a great question. I was really happy that you dropped that question to me, because this is exactly the point. I don't know anyone who wants to destroy the planet, but I know many people who are lost or who don't know because they face dilemmas. Is sustainability and affordability an issue? Sustainability cannot be a luxury for the few. It has to be affordable for the many, because it will never take off if it is not affordable for the many. If I take an example in our case, it was 5 years ago, 2016. We had the bulbs, and then we decided to go fully with the LED bulbs. At that time, the cost was 10 euros, while the normal bulb was much cheaper. And we say, no, the only way is to go fully. And then today, we sell the LED bulb for €1 in most of the markets in the world, and it's saving 80% of the electricity to build. But so it's not a question if it's a luxury or not. It's you have to go fully to really overcome the dilemma. If I take an example, I hear that sometimes, or ourselves sometimes said, okay, sustainability is a problem for the bottom line of the company. It's not only luxury for the future, problem for the bottom line of the company. No, it has to be good business to be good business. If I take another example, for example, so we acquired part of the company, of the Return Mattress in the Netherlands. They recycle 1 million mattresses only in the Netherlands a year, 1 million, and it's a good business. Or energy, we invest a lot in energy. We produce energy, renewable energy for 130% compared with the energy we consume. We produce more than we consume. So it's good for the P&L. Or finally, for example, we are famous for the meatballs in IKEA, and then our plant balls. is 96% less CO2 footprint, and it's good for the customer, for the P&L. So this question goes to the heart, how to tackle dilemmas. And this is the big responsibility of any business, to take up with sustainability.
It's some great examples, Mr. Maeztu, of how it can be done. I think in the way that you describe, and thinking holistically can change the mindset to just a pure cost discussion. Another question actually from the audience that I'd like to put to Mr. Narain, which is how keen is Bayer as companies to actually adopt new technologies and working at reducing carbon footprints substantially? And I think this somewhat connects to the question that we just asked as well,
Yep.
as to, is that more expensive, or it can actually be a good thing for Bayer into the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I'll just step back to my earlier comment where we said no single company can do it. And clearly, the way to achieve it is getting the end-to-end players of the value chain coming together to deliver cost-effective solutions. The second piece is clearly for us, the significant digitalization and technology access, Ms. Gangadharan also talked about it, is a huge opportunity. It's no longer the domain of big companies, but significant number of startups are there. How do you collaboratively bring them in? As far as the carbon question is concerned, clearly for us, we now are piloting models in rice. We know that 4,000 liters of water goes to produce a single kg of rice. So if there has been a significant shift to changing the entire conversation on managing these resources, it needs to start with agriculture, which still has 60% of India's population. So to me, at the end of the day, this will happen with models where we can prove that we can deliver sustainability credits, whether it is carbon, water efficiencies, including soil health, and how do you acknowledge and pay and share value for farmers? So that's what we're testing. And the second piece is, I go back to the earlier comment I made also, the Better Life farming ecosystem that we have tested now, and today we have close to 500,000 farmers who are in this ecosystem. It's validated independently by IFC, can improve farm incomes by 2x to 3x by delivering on sustainability metrics. So how do you bring all these together to support this growth? And finally, I think this is where the government is clearly in the right path, but we need to accelerate more. The recent announcement on deregulating drones is a big step forward. The big push for FPOs and collectivizing farmers is a big step forward. The next question is, how do you support crop-based policies to drive this, to make it even more effective? So I think, Ms. Nelson, it's a joint goal by everybody, and it works. We don't have to wait for the innovations of the future. Innovations are here. We just have to use it, make it efficient, and to earlier comment, it can be affordable. Sustainability doesn't have to be a cost, but to make it work, people need to look at it as end-to-end solutions that drives, affordable products, technologies, and creates value.
Yeah, I like that comment about end-to-end solutions. And I think we've heard that a couple of times now, that the concept of holistic circular economy, end-to-end solutions is really the thinking that needs to be applied here. I would love to be able to talk to this panel for hours and hours, and I'm sure our audience would love to too, but time is our enemy as usual. So what I would like to do is just ask each of the panel members to give me one closing statement on some advice that you might give to other CEOs or other business leaders that are listening in terms of the journey. I'm going to jump ahead, even though I really shouldn't, given I'm the less esteemed on this panel, but I'm going to make my own advice, which is the business case is there. Take action, and take action now, I think, is the message that I'd like to give. But I would love to hear from each of you in terms of one last closing statement as to advice. So maybe if I start with Mr. Kirloskar, I'd love to hear your statement for those listening.
Again, I think I still believe educating the person, educating people on the effect of environment on us. We are seeing the effects of climate change for sure, different weather situations this year and last year, and increasing.
Great comment.
I think education is number one, and behavior change along with it is number two. For me, it's the most important thing.
Great comment. Mr. Godrej, what would you say?
Yeah, I think that there's a very strong business case for going green. I think it's, you will see that the effort that goes in will result in better products and less expensive ones over time.
Thank you. And Ms. Gangadharan?
I'd say, besides everything that was said, creating transparency is important, right? I mean, whether we are talking about if you're dealing with coffee or cars, understanding your system of suppliers, manufacturers, logistic service providers, and using technology to kind of understand what this all means to your goals is also very important, because that's what helps you scale it, would be my point.
Great comment. Mr. Maeztu?
I think it's sustainability is about partnership. No one can do everything, but everyone must do something. It's about togetherness and partnerships.
I think that's a great comment. Doing it together is a very important part of this journey for all of us, I think. And Mr. Narain?
Yeah, ultimately, it takes people to make it happen. No CEO can do it alone. So start with people, passion, purpose, and partnerships. I would say those are the 4 Ps which will make a big difference as we go into the future.
Fantastic. I think that last comment about partnerships, and Mr. Mathew, your comment about doing it together is something that was a real outcome from this discussion, and the context of hearing from all of you CEOs, being able to talk about ESG in a way that makes it sound real to you as leaders of your organization gives us good insight to telling us that this topic is fundamental to the success of your businesses that you are leading, as opposed to someone who is an ESG person coming and speaking. I can hear it being real for you, and that's an important message for us to take. So with that, I'd like to say thank you to all of our panel members. It's been a fantastic discussion. And as I said, I would love to be able to talk to you all for a lot longer, and hopefully we will get the chance to do so into the future. So thanks everybody for your participation, and I will pass back to our MC.